Professional football in America is a special game, a unique game. Played nowhere else on earth, it is a rare game. The men who play it make it so.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs and have some fun.
Coming now, buddy. We on our horse all day long. Let's just kick that butt all day long. Pick it up. Don't stop. Pick it up. Let's go.
Get after the ball. Tackle somebody.
Welcome to This Week in Fantasy Football. This is Week 6 in the NFL. I'm Mike Cardano along with the King, Scott Engel. Scotty, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing good. I'm ready and raring to go for Week 6.
How you doing in your expert leagues?
Doing pretty well. I have one team that's actually high stakes in Roto Bowl that is 4-1. So
4-1's pretty good.
Yeah, 4-1 pretty good, especially in high stakes like at rotobowl.com.
Have you tried any of the daily leagues yet? Sunday daily leagues?
Oh yeah, I'm always playing on DraftKings, and I actually won 2 weeks ago. I finished in the top 10.
Nice. All right, let's get right to the celebrity questions. This thing's kind of taken on a life of its own. Celebrities are just flocking to us with questions now. So I actually thought I had a question for you. I got a kind of a cryptic voicemail from a buddy of mine that I was going to have a question for you from Miley Cyrus. I thought we'd be hip with you'd have a bunch of 13-year-old girls watching the program and thinking you were really cool.
I thought they watched them to scream at you anyway.
Maybe. But unfortunately, I heard the voicemail wrong, and it was Billy Ray Cyrus. So it's the achy breaky heart guy.
That's okay.
It's her father,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
I think he did some television. He did something.
Yes, country music star Billy Ray Cyrus.
Okay. Well, anyway, let's get to Billy's question. Billy wants to know, do you find any advantage to holding your drafts in person, and what site do you like to play on best?
Drafting in person is great because it makes everything almost like a holiday of sorts.
It's a social
everybody
thing.
Gets together. It's more social, face-to-face interaction. It tends to be more fun. If you want to re-experience that now that the season has started, maybe have a mid-season party, a post-season party, where you can just get everybody together. A lot of these top sites all have their merits, but I'm used to playing on myfantasyleague.com. You can do just about anything on that site.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. All right, let's move on to Billy. I hope you answered your question. To our next celebrity question. Byron Hunt, former Giants linebacker, was in the office this week. Stopped by. You know Byron.
Oh, no, Byron. Yes.
And we got an autographed picture here for you.
The very effervescent Byron.
Byron.
Yes.
So, Byron holds the record along with Lawrence Taylor. They came into the league at the same time, and they were both outside linebackers and rookies, saying they were roommates. And they held a record for most sacks as rookie linebackers, which I thought was pretty interesting. I think he told me it was 16, and I don't know if that means that Taylor had 15, he had 1, or how that works, but they do hold the record. So it's pretty interesting. So Byron wants to know, given my knowledge of the game, played, he knows what's going on, what format would be best for me to play, standard, PPR, or IDP?
You can play both. You can play in a PPR league with individual defensive players. PPR on offense has pretty much become the standard. The great thing about IDP leagues is you can draft defensive linemen, linebackers, defensive backs. You get points for tackles, assists, and sacks. But it's for the very intense. And, Byron is intense. It's not for the average fantasy football player because you have to know you want to get defensive linemen that play the run. Linebackers, you want to stick to middle and inside guys, and defensive backs on bad defenses that make a lot of tackles, are usually very good.
It's funny. Most of the questions I get on Twitter or by email, the people seem to be playing in half-point PPR leagues. You get those questions a lot?
I do get those pretty frequently. But if you're going to make the leap, make the full leap. I say go full-point PPR.
Okay. Next celebrity question from NFL Hall of Famer Michael Haynes.
Yes.
You remember Michael Haynes? We went down at the Super Bowl. We got a picture here of you interviewing Michael.
Raiders and Patriots. Great interview.
We also have a picture here of him here. He's squaring up against Chris Collinsworth.
Yes, Chris Collinsworth, when I played Stratomatic back in the day, was actually a very good wide receiver to have on the Bengals. Yes.
I think he shut him down. So do you remember what you talked to about Michael?
Yes,
Michael.
we talked about not only football, but Mike's battled with prostate cancer and how he came through that, and how he's advocating and raising awareness. And great to meet Michael Haynes. Not only a Hall of Fame player, but just a class
Nice
act.
guy.
Carried himself like a Hall of Famer.
Well, he's doing well. So just
Yes.
so you know, that's good.
Yes,
Okay,
that's good.
Michael wants to know. So he played for the Patriots, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And the Raiders, yes.
So he's got a Patriots question.
Yes.
How do you view Tomkins now that Tom Brady is starting to get his proven veteran receivers back?
I think it pushes him more into the background, and maybe doesn't make him such a good fantasy option. If they have everybody healthy there, he's really the fourth option in the passing game. But Brady spreads it around so well. I think going forward, he'll be a good option for Brady. Maybe when he can't get Gronkowski in the end zone, Tomkins has shown it in the red zone that he can throw to him. But only if more unfortunate injuries strike again will Tompkins be heavily relevant in fantasy the rest of the way.
It's got to help him, though, that he's had some intimate one-on-one time with Tom there, alone without the other
It does,
guy, right?
but if the other guys are back,
I don't know how Giselle feels about that.
They're higher in the pecking order.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we have some more questions here. One from at Groundhog22 wants to know if he should trade Matt Ryan now that he's losing all his receivers.
Usually, when you have an issue and you want to trade a guy away because you want to get rid of the problem is that everybody else knows about that issue. You have an issue with Matt Ryan because he's lost both of his starting wide receivers. Why is somebody else necessarily going to want to take that on and have to take on the worry of the concern that you have? You're not going to get proper return for Matt Ryan. You could try to trade him and maybe package him with something else, but
It was trying to trade Ryan Braun in a non-keeper league after he got suspended.
Well, I wouldn't say it's that bad of a scenario, but you're not going to get proper return on Matt Ryan right now. It's going to be hard to deal with him.
Okay, all right. At 49 Candles, which I imagine he's a 49ers fan, he's asking a 49er question here. He says, Frank Gore is the 11th best running back in standard leagues by performance. I guess he's got the 11th best total points. Why do you always refer to him as a running back too? So he's not happy with you.
Well, because
So
obviously he's a
dig,
49ers fan.
Yeah.
He wants me to rank him higher because he's a 49ers fan.
Yeah.
I'm not going to look at the numbers.
Now, that's not you're not being disrespectful by saying he's RB2. He's a good running guy.
He's a good running back. He's a top-end RB2. I'm not going to look at the numbers after 5 weeks and make my total estimation. I don't think, by the end of the season that Frank Gore is going to be a top 12 fantasy scoring running back. It could happen, but there are other guys still who have more upside than him. I think his ceiling right now is where he's at in scoring.
Okay. It's fair.
There's nothing wrong with being a high-end RB2.
Right. Yeah, I hope you're not offended. I think that was a pretty fair answer.
Is.
Yeah. I think he is too.
Yeah.
He kind of took it. You maybe wrote "son of a bitch" at the end of the question. I deleted
maybe
that.
because I'm a Seahawks fan, he thinks I'm downing the 49ers,
Maybe.
but I don't hate the 49ers.
Maybe. All right, let's move on to the games this week. Okay. We have the Cincinnati Bengals at the Buffalo Bills with someone quarterbacking the team.
Thaddeus Lewis. This team has a lot of problems.
It's on the practice squad.
Yes.
Buffalo's practice squad.
Thaddeus Lewis, we saw a little bit of him with Cleveland last year, and Stevie Johnson's got a back injury. CJ Spiller is limping. This offense is a mess, something you mostly avoid for fantasy purposes. Gotta love the Cincinnati defense. Andy Dalton having all sorts of problems with his accuracy, but decent start if you have Matt Ryan on a bye. You gotta like Gio Bernard, obviously, because I think the Buffalo defense can spend a lot of time on the field, but this could be a lower scoring game.
So are you giving any shot to Buffalo winning the game, or any shot to any of the people on Buffalo having good fantasy days?
Not really.
Nothing. No hope.
Look, it could be surprising.
Might as well not show up. Just stay in the...
well, that's why they play the games. Okay. Maybe they win a 13-10 game, but it's not too appealing for fantasy purposes.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. I hear you there. Detroit Lions at the Cleveland Browns, who I like Cleveland's defense.
I don't know if I like Cleveland's offense as much with Brandon Whedon, Willis McGahee. He passed his prime there. You still roll out Josh Gordon and Jordan Cameron no matter what, even though there might be a slight dip in their production. You hope Calvin Johnson plays this week. I remember doing my
Unless, of course, you're playing against him. Then you don't want him.
I never worry about who my opponent has. I can only control my own team. So I don't care if somebody else has Calvin Johnson. There's nothing I can do about that. But going back to my live chat on Sundays,
You're like a Tanya Hardman. You hit him in the leg.
Going back to my live chat on Sundays on RotoExperts.com, the Google Plus video hangout from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern every Sunday. The news broke last week during the chat about Calvin Johnson. Everybody's like, should I run out and get Ryan Broyles and Chris Durham? I'm like, no. Opportunity doesn't always lead to production for certain guys. It hurts Reggie Bush. It hurts Matt Stafford. If Calvin Johnson plays, Reggie Bush will be Reggie Bush. Matthew Stafford will be Matthew Stafford. No matter who he faces. It really too much just hinges on Calvin Johnson this week.
Okay, all right, and you don't like anybody on Cleveland?
I just said Josh Gordon and Jordan Cameron.
Okay, all right, fine.
Thanks for listening to this program. I appreciate it.
Thinking of something else. Oakland at Kansas City, the undefeated Chiefs.
Yes, the undefeated Chiefs. Alex Smith, a decent plug-in. If you have Matt Ryan on a bye, if Donnie Avery's shoulder is good, and he's good enough to play at near 100%. He is a great plug and play as a wide receiver 3, as a salary cap guy on sites like DraftKings, Draft Street, and our friends over at Fantasy Feud. Jamal Charles, the blisters are not really holding him back at all. He's missed a little practice
that was all
time.
Fugazi.
But
it's a football player. Got blisters.
But he's fine. Blisters are not going to really bother a football player. Ryan Suckup is an excellent fantasy kicker. The Chiefs' top defense in fantasy football right now. On the other side of the ball, this is a week I'm not liking Terrell Pryor too much. Obviously,
why not?
He's facing the Chiefs. Chiefs got a terrific defense. He's still a work in progress as a passer.
Yeah, but his offensive line has sucked, and he was playing against his team was inferior every week that he's played, and he's been doing pretty well.
I'm not talking about the team being inferior. I'm talking about this being a tough matchup, and this guy is still developing as a passer.
Okay, fair enough. I personally can't have a guy named Suckup on my fantasy roster, but
it's okay. I'll get to 12, 14, 15 points.
Carolina at Minnesota, who also has quarterback problems. I don't think that Ponder is going to take another snap for the Vikings. That's it. He can go home to his lovely wife.
Well, for this week, it's Matt Castle, and some people are impressed by how he played before the bye over in London against the Steelers. But let's remember, he's still Matt Castle. Let's remember what we saw of him in Kansas City. I don't like Castle.
Do you remember what you saw of him in New England? Or you forgot that?
Well, New England was a much better supporting cast, and almost anybody could shine over there. The year that Brady went out, but Castle with Greg Jennings, Jerome Simpson, not too exciting. The most recent version we've seen him in Kansas City, where he got that big contract. He obviously didn't deserve it.
He did play pretty well last week. Last week he did play pretty well.
Yeah, but what I already said is you can't look at 2 weeks ago. Matt Castle's still a mediocre NFL quarterback. I don't like Greg Jennings. I don't like Jerome Simpson. The Carolina Panthers, Cam Newton can throw this week. I do like him and Steve Smith. D'Angelo Williams, ho-hum, ham and egg get you 5 to 7 points, but he won't hurt you. He won't help you a lot.
Okay. Philadelphia at Tampa Bay. Boy, there are big problems in Tampa Bay, but Philadelphia's got their own problems.
Well, Philadelphia's defense can cure anything that ails the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think Doug Martin gets into the end zone this week. I think Vincent Jackson could have a 100-yard day. Mike Glennon could have a decent day here. The Tampa Bay defense, going to be interesting to see Darrelle Revis against Deshaun Jackson. I think Revis will probably get the better end, but he can't bench Deshaun Jackson.
Is it Darrelle Revis or Darrell?
Darrelle Revis.
I thought it was Darrell.
Darrelle Revis. And
to ask his parents about that. But.
Yeah. It's not Dorrell, it's
Darrell.
Darrelle Revis.
It's Revis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Darrelle Revis. Doesn't matter. We got to keep it tight. We can't waste time here. Deshaun Jackson, you still roll him out and play him, but and LaShawn McCoy obviously, but I wouldn't use any other Philadelphia Eagle. This could be a low-scoring game.
Would you use Glennon?
No.
Okay. Because it's a low-scoring game.
It's a low-scoring game. People are going to look at the matchup sometimes and say, it's a bad defense, I should start the quarterback. It's not just about the matchup, it's about the quality of player. And Mike Glennon has a heck of a lot to prove at the NFL level.
Well, the only reason I asked the question is because you'd mentioned in the beginning that you like the Tampa receivers.
No, I mentioned
somebody's going to throw them the ball.
I meant one Tampa.
Well, I was going to throw him the ball.
But just because the receiver is going to have a good game doesn't mean the quarterback is going to be outstanding. He could throw for 150 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and of that 150 yards and a touchdown, a lot of that could be Vincent Jackson.
Could be.
Should be.
Okay. Green Bay at Baltimore.
Eddie Lacy should get a lot of work. Probably bang a tough touchdown into the end zone. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers a must-start. Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb. James Jones has a ton of upside in any matchup. Torrey Smith, I am so impressed with him right now. I was always telling people in the past, this guy is more than just a post and fly pattern runner. He's looking like a top 10 fantasy wide receiver right now. He's putting up big numbers every week, catching the ball all over the field, even with no solid compliments. Ray Rice is not looking quite like the Ray Rice we're all used to, but he did score twice last week, and he's going to get opportunities to score 6 every week. So you got to continue to roll him out there.
What do you say about the argument that word's gotten out and they're going to start doubling Smith because they got nobody else really?
They've been trying to do
Definitely
that.
Don't have any tight ends.
They've been trying to do that since the beginning of the season. He's still putting up huge numbers. He's been busting double teams left and right.
Okay. All right.
The word was out a while ago.
And you like Ray Rice this week?
I think he'll get in the end zone. The Packers, without Clay Matthews, are certainly not as intimidating defensively.
Okay. St. Louis at the Houston Texans, who have a very good defense and a very confused quarterback.
Yeah, this is a decent matchup for him. Maybe if you got Ryan on a bye.
People were at his house heckling him this week.
Yes.
See that?
Yeah.
But he took the high road.
I know who it was, too.
Who?
One of our faithful listeners and viewers, Cha-Cha. I think it was him.
He was at my house heckling me, too.
It doesn't surprise me. You'll probably get a video heckling you now, too, as well. But Andre Johnson, game time decision, but the guy that I'm really keeping an eye on is Garrett Graham with Owen Daniels out. Mark my words, this guy has the upside to be a top 6 fantasy tight end the rest of the way. He can be that good. He's learned from Daniels. He's a good red zone target. They might need him more this week. DeAndre Hopkins, can continue to progress every single week. I think you're going to get better numbers from him. On the other side of the ball, not a week to like Zach Stacy. Jared Cook, we call him the Loch Ness Monster because everybody talks about him being so big. We just never see anything.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to tell you, not after it happens, before it happens when you can capitalize it, that Matt Schaub is going to have a very good fantasy week this week.
What are your projections for him?
He will throw for over 300 yards, and he will at least have a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio.
Wow, that's kind of boastful for Matt Schaub the way
this week. I don't know what happens after that, but he's going to come back.
He's a high.
Well, the other thing, part of it is it's like a bell curve. He's due. He can't possibly keep.
Well, due is baseball.
And he won't throw a pick 6.
Yeah,
which he's done I think 4 weeks in a row.
That might not be an accurate prediction. Matt Schaub should
it's almost 50-50.
Matt Schaub should just show up every week with the jersey of the opposing team with the number 6 on it.
Okay, here we go. We're going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers at my New York Jets.
3-2 New York Jets.
Yeah, everybody was making fun of us, and for good reason. But I was kind of poking fun at myself. But
the season's not over.
No, nobody thought we would be 3-2.
No, a very impressive performance by Geno Smith, who is ascending as a fantasy backup. Kellen Winslow, a good bye week play if you got Tony Gonzalez.
Yeah, he bitched and moaned a little about he didn't get the ball enough. He did have the one TD.
You know what happens when a guy doesn't?
Right.
When he
calls for the ball, he gets the ball.
He'll get it. So Winslow, a good bye week play. The Jets' backfield is becoming more crowded. I don't like Bilal Powell as much as
muddies the waters.
Because,
too many guys now.
We got Mike Goodson and now a healthy Chris Ivory. On the other side of the ball, our NFL Fantasy Insider, you can now check him out on rotoexperts.com. Steve Silverman, very well connected around the league, says when Marcus Wheaton comes back from his thumb injury, he might get a chance to start because he has such huge big playability. Stash Marcus Wheaton right now. I don't see an outstanding game from Le'Veon Bell. Antonio Brown, a must start. Heath Miller, very serviceable. Schaub will have a better game than Roethlisberger if you're comparing those two for usage.
Yeah, I think, and it has nothing to do with being better players. I just think, like you said about Le'Veon Bell, I think he's going to be a fantastic fantasy back. I just think this week
against
the matchup.
That front and that offensive line against Pittsburgh, against that defensive line of the Jets, don't like it.
Got a lot of questions, and I guess because it was on national TV, at a decent game, about Cumberland. But he's just splitting time at
fantasy
tight
end to, a very poor man's Garrett Graham.
Okay. So there you have it.
Yes.
There you go. Jacksonville at Denver. I haven't looked. Has the spread gone over 30?
I don't look at the spread. I
I
just
look
play
at the spread
fantasy
because I
football.
like to win money.
I just play fantasy football. That's where I'll win my money.
Look at the spread right now when you talk.
A lot of assumptions about this game. Okay, that
Which are?
it's going to be such a blowout at halftime that Denver's going to start sitting their guys, and they'll be less useful than they normally would be.
Spread is at 26. Just
Now, somebody
You
said
know?
to me in the email advice on rotoexperts.com this week, in the email advice box, I don't like Julius Thomas because he could be wearing a baseball cap by the third quarter. What I said was, if he's wearing a baseball cap, how do you think the Broncos got there? It's by scoring points with all their top players. You roll out all your Broncos this week like you normally would. Some people are saying, I really like Cecil Shorts and Justin Blackmon because they're going to play catch-up.
Yeah, garbage time
You
points.
can't predict garbage time points. You really can't. Some people are saying maybe use Ronnie Hillman. The Broncos are going to be very conservative if they get a huge lead there. And as far as playing catch up, you really can't predict or depend on that. Because then sometimes the starters see less reps, etc. You can't depend on garbage time. Don't overanalyze this possible blowout.
you don't like Blackmon either way.
I like Blackmon and Shorts either way.
Okay.
I'm just not saying. I get people asking me,
play him because
should
of
I
that
start
reason.
him over Antonio Brown or somebody like that?
Right.
Because they're going to play catch up. It's almost guaranteed padded numbers. I don't see it that way.
Okay. I understand the way they're looking at it. I don't know that I agree with it either, but I do understand the logic.
It's kind of like, not to be offensive here, but it's knee jerk sort of logic.
You just offended people.
Yeah.
Just because you said you didn't want to be offensive first doesn't mean you didn't offend them.
There you go.
Okay, sorry about that. We're a team, and I apologize for him. So.
You don't have to.
Denver at your Seattle Seahawks.
Denver.
Oh, not Denver,
Oh,
Tennessee.
the Super Bowl.
My
Yes.
apologies.
Oh, okay.
My apologies.
Yes.
Tennessee at the Seahawks.
Tennessee at the Seahawks. They get Mac. Russell Wilson's had to run a lot because they've had offensive line injuries. They do get Mac Hunger back at center this week, but they're still missing the starting offensive tackles. But that Tennessee secondary is so good that Russell Wilson might not see people open consistently, so he's going to take off and run again. He's a strong fantasy start this week. The Tennessee defense only 16th against the run. You got to love Marshawn Lynch. Stephen Hauschka, the number 4 kicker in fantasy right now. Just thought you'd like to know that. And available in over 50% of NFL.com leagues right now. It's a good pickup if you need a kicker. If you got Matt Bryant on a bye, Stephen Hauschka might be a free agent in your NFL.com league. On the other side of the ball, I can't see Chris Johnson doing much of anything this week. Ryan Fitzpatrick against that Seattle secondary. This is a week where you just don't like any of the Titans going into Seattle.
I don't know if most of our viewers know, but Scott writes for NFL.com on the Seattle Seahawks website each week.
We provide content to Seahawks.com every week. You can check it every week for an in-depth breakdown.
And a little tidbit of information, or is it you pretty much ran through it that you have up there?
I ran through it a lot. You're looking for my in-depth previews on Seahawks.com every week because sometimes people want to look more in-depth at a specific game when they're trying to make a tough decision. And you'll see that Russell Wilson, if you're in a tight decision between him and another quarterback, a lot of cases you're going to lean towards Wilson if you don't have another top 8 sort of quarterback. If you're talking about Russell Wilson and Cam Newton, you go to Seahawks.com and it helps you to make your decision.
Okay. Did you write anything about the fact that they were outplayed last week and the week before that they kind of lucked out in the win? Did you write
what
that?
I wrote about it was how Michael Cardano just doesn't like to see me happy, but that I don't care because the Seahawks are 4-1 and none of this weekly nonsense makes a difference.
You're rather defensive there.
I'm not defensive.
Just
I'm
saying.
pointing out
Just
facts.
pointing, yeah.
You're a
Seem
misery,
defensive to me.
you're a misery loves company
my
kind
team's
of guy.
3-2. I thought I'd
but
be 0-5.
You know they're going to be 3-8, so you just want to bring me down with you.
No. All right, let's move on here. New Orleans at New England, which I heard you telling somebody else. I think you thought it was going to be the best game of the week.
I think it is because Bill Belichick is world renowned for trying to take away the offense's best weapon, and that's Jimmy Graham on the other side. But Sean Payton is such an offensive genius. From a pure football fan's perspective, it is going to be great to watch, but nobody stops Graham. But Payton's going to say, okay, I can beat you with Marcus Colston, I can beat you with Darren Sproles. I'm not a believer in Pierre Thomas. He's mediocre. On the other
He's been doing pretty well, though.
He had one pretty good game.
Been doing pretty well. He's
He's
catching a lot more balls than I thought he would.
He's ho-hum.
I
He's a
thought
ham and
Sproles
egger.
would get all the catches out of
At
the
best,
backfield.
he'll be a flex.
Okay.
You can't rely on Pierre Thomas. I'm not going to react to one game. Maybe you will. New England on the other side, they get Rob Gronkowski back this week, and in most cases you got to plug him in because tight end is a very thin position and is what you've waited for. But if you have Julius Thomas, a lot of teams drafted defensively, I'll call it, or for insurance, and they were able to get Julius Thomas and Gronk or Jordan Cameron and Gronk. So before the week starts, you want to trade one of them, so you could just roll one guy out there with peace of mind. That New England backfield has become very crowded. Brandon Bolden still might emerge as the guy there because he's the only one that doesn't fumble. Danny Amendola, as he gets into better health, will be a must start.
You remember in the beginning of the season, before the season started, one of your big fantasy sleepers was Zach Sudfeld?
Yes.
The Patriots ditched him.
Yes.
Picked him up.
The Jets.
Yeah. That means,
so his sleeper,
that means you were wrong.
That means his sleeper potential is
he's
shot.
He's sleeping.
Now.
He's sleeping.
He's done.
All right.
I noticed he didn't pick out any of my good fantasy picks, though.
Let's see here. We got
Jarvis
Arizona.
Green Ellis did score last week, as I predicted.
At San Francisco. Arizona at San Francisco.
Arizona at San Francisco. Great matchup for the 49ers defense against that offensive line of Arizona. You don't start any Cardinals except for Larry Fitzgerald. Andre Ellington not going to get it done this week. You don't want anything.
You're down on Carson Palmer. I sense it. I feel it.
I'm not down. I'm down on Carson Palmer's situation. I think if he got the right protection, he could still be a pretty good quarterback. But that's just not what he's getting right now. For San Francisco, Anquan Bolden, he's going to want to dig it in a little bit against his former team. I like him to score a touchdown. Still don't like Colin Kaepernick a whole lot in this matchup. Arizona's defense has played pretty well. And Frank Gore, a nice number 2 fantasy running back.
Now, you took a dig back at our viewer who took one at you.
Yeah.
All right. It's fair play.
It is.
Okay. That's we're supposed to be better than that and just take the upper hand. Stoop to that level. Just saying.
You're saying this?
I'm just saying. I'm just trying to.
You of all people who needle me about the Seahawks every week.
You. That's you. You're not a regular viewer. You don't be heckling the viewers. It's not good for. The ratings are going to go right through the toilet. You start pissing off the viewers.
You got to have a sense of humor.
I just noticed this. I got a note from management before. We're supposed to get rid of the X. It's distracting people. They're mesmerized by the X. So
it is mesmerizing. I find myself staring at it.
I'll tell Lou I took care of that. Okay. Washington at Dallas.
Two very vulnerable pass defenses. Love Pierre Garçon this week. Keep an eye on Jordan Reed as an upcoming tight end. Alfred Morris, the rib is fine. And he may score more than once. They want to use the running game to take some pressure off of RG3 and also control time of possession. Another big week for Tony Romo. Miles Austin is back at practice. Trade DeMarco Murray before he gets hurt.
Really?
Yeah.
Not ride him?
No.
Trade him?
No, he has a long history, I think, dating back to high school of being not durable.
Okay.
We've already seen it in the NFL. He can't stay healthy. Love to watch the guy when he plays, but he can't stay healthy.
Okay. Who do you like in that game, just as an aside?
Dallas.
Yeah. Whether or not Romo throws a pick.
Don't say that to Adam Ronis.
Well, you know what? You know what? I think he's a fantastic fantasy quarterback. But to me, I have to. Fair is fair. And as I said earlier this week, he's the Trevor Hoffman of the NFL. He put up fantastic stats during the regular season, did everything for you, 40 saves a year. But in the big spot, the guy can never get it out. And this guy,
he hasn't been in
he's kind of cursed.
Spot.
The sample size isn't that big.
He hasn't
I gave
really
you
been
that.
in the playoffs a lot.
Well, that's the part of the problem.
Yeah. But
everything from holding
Adam
the
Ronis,
ball
who's a big Cowboys fan on RotoExperts.com, will always point out that Tony Romo has like the highest quarterback rating in the fourth quarter of any active quarterback.
Now, to be fair, they didn't make Denver punt the ball once. They could have let that kicker could have just stayed on the plane. I mean, that would have helped.
That would have been never
didn't do
positioned to
anything.
win without Tony Romo.
Right. So,
But he still messed up. He still makes a lot of mistakes in big spots, though.
Still a good fantasy quarterback.
Yes, excellent.
Okay. All right. Now, last game of the week, we've got Indianapolis Colts at the San Diego Chargers. Hopefully, this one's not going to start at 11:35 Eastern. I think it's an 8:35 Eastern.
No, check your schedule. I think we're good to go.
Yeah. That was toughy. But what do we got there? Two quarterbacks who are feeling it.
Our NFL fantasy insider, RotoExperts.com, Steve Silverman, went inside the San Diego situation and said not only is it Mike McCoy, but it's quarterbacks coach Frank Reich, which is a big reason for Phillip Rivers' success. They're working very
back
well.
Up to Kelly. Yeah.
They are working very well with Rivers. He's going to be a top fantasy quarterback the rest of the way. Keenan Allen is ascending as a wide receiver 3 in fantasy. This was a guy who had a first-round grade from a lot of scouts when he was coming out into the NFL draft class this year. Vincent Brown is back. You can start Danny Woodhead as a flex.
A lot of questions on Danny Woodhead. People are coming out of the woodwork. All of a sudden, Danny Woodhead. It's amazing.
They are, because, he's getting... He's what... They're trying to remake Danny Woodhead is what Darren Sproles used to be in San Diego, and they're succeeding.
He's on pace for just about 100 catches, which is amazing.
Mike McCoy has done a really nice job with that offense so far.
And 10 touchdowns.
Yes, and but on pace doesn't always mean they're going to finish that way, of course. But Indianapolis, I think you're going to see a big week from Trent Richardson. I think they're going to try to play ball control and really establish a power running game. I think you could see a 125-yard, 2-touchdown game from Trent Richardson. That sets up some play action for Andrew Luck against a bad secondary. You have to love your Colts wide receivers this week, except for Darius Hayward-Bay. I think Coby Fleener actually gets in the act this week.
I'm still not a big Richardson fan. To me, he runs into people, not around them if he has a choice. He chooses to try to run into them and run over them.
When you saw Richardson at his best last year, he ran into people and over them.
Yeah,
but he also made people.
Then he gets hurt. And then
he gets hurt, but I think when Richardson's healthy, he's needed some time to develop and get acclimated to his new team. I think you're going to really start seeing him start to ascend back up this week.
Now, people have been complaining for a long time about his yards per carry. It hasn't improved yet. It's been new. But how long do you give it before?
I don't worry about yards per carry in fantasy football. If he gets enough volume, the yardage is going to be there. And the big thing with Richardson is he's terrific near the goal line. He can punch it in 2 times a game, and that offense is going to put him in position to do so.
Okay. All right, that's all the time we have for my sidekick, Scott Engel. I'm Mike Cardano. This is week 6 in the NFL. Good luck to everyone, unless, of course, you're playing me this week in a daily game. And then I hope you fall flat on your face. But otherwise, good luck to all of you, and we'll see you next week.
Now's the time to work and strain at a sport that tests the spirit and challenges the brain.
Come on, let's go. Yeah, I'd like to have 75 degrees and sunny all the time too, but that's not football.
Do you fear the force of the wind, the slash of the rain?
We're gonna play us through light and rain.
Go face them and fight them. Be savage again.